Lately, the sleepwalking has been coming back.
How have you been since you've been back?
I'm fine. I don't know why everybody keeps checking up on me.
Your mom's inside. I guess she got an appointment at the clinic.
Great. Can't wait to be a certified comatose patient. Ever since the accident, I haven't really spoken to anybody.
Something as traumatic as that can really take a toll on a person. But about the sleepwalk, anything out of the ordinary happening?
The occasional nightmare.
The nightmares will eventually stop.
Where were you last night? The sleepwalking has gotten worse.
You can't blame yourself for her committing suicide.
She was right here.
You didn't see her? Jamie is gone, Jordan. The sooner you realize that, the better. You don't want to do this, honey. I promise you.
So you guys have any lead on this guy?
Neighbor said they saw a female mid-20s brunette around the neighborhood. This is Detective Morris taking the lead on this case.
Did something happen?
Do you happen to recall where Jordan was last night?
And she was home, actually. She's been having nightmares. Her college roommate committed suicide. It's taken a real toll on her.
Do you remember any of it?
I'd like to up the dose of Ambien for her, doctor.
Are you sure this is what you want?
My mother knows best. I trust her.
Whose blood is it, Jordan? Tell me if you hurt somebody. I protect my child by any means necessary.
What if I woke up the bad guy?
Wake up.
Boom, there you go. That was the trailer for Waking Nightmare, arriving to video and on demand on August 18th from Terror Films. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. And as you see on the screen, I'm delighted to have the director of Waking Nightmare, Mr. Steve Craig. How are you, sir?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Definitely excited to chat with you, man. As I kind of told you earlier, as a fellow filmmaker, I know the hustle and bustle and the energy it takes to promote all of our hard work that we put so much time and energy into. So you deserve your flowers. I hope I can give them to you. And I know the rest of the world will give it to you when the project drops on VOD on August 18th, man.
Hey, we'll see. I appreciate that.
Definitely. So as I like to do, as a fellow filmmaker, I get energized by, just that energy exchange from having conversations like this. So I would like to know, where did this germ of an idea start? I see this was written with Brian Farmer. How did you get with him, and how did you get on this project, and how was the pre-production, if you will, to start off?
Yeah, you're right. So Brian Farmer was someone that I worked with before this movie. We both came out to LA from the East Coast of US. I think we both had a lot in common about what our goals were. And I saw he just had a real hustle. Like you said, it takes a lot of hustle and spirit. And I was watching his sort of productions grow and helping him out on his movies. And he came to me with this idea and had the idea of us working together on it, which, I read the script and I thought it was a really interesting blend of genres, although, horror adjacent. But it gave me a lot of opportunity to experiment with style and experiment with visuals and things like that. So that's what I really loved about it. And man, pre-production was pretty fast. It was like, let's roll with the punches and do it. And we worked. Everyone involved worked really hard to get it done.
Awesome. So this is, I think, back in 2016 is when this project first started.
This goes back. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So a long time. And finally, man, I'm happy I can then give you your flowers because it's now getting to the people. So if you can remember from back then, so you got together with Brian. So this was your first project when you came out to LA?
Well, as a director, I think so. Yeah. We did a short film together that I directed. It's my first feature film.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's I would consider this my feature debut. Yeah.
All right. So putting together a feature, you said the pre-production was pretty fast. I have a lot of other filmmaker friends that watch this, and we all love and share our stories. And I'm sure you like to get those nuggets too of just like getting things together, finding the team. If you can talk a little bit about that. So you and Brian, you knew each other, you get together. Tell me about establishing your team and then putting out the calls. And from what I see, man, an amazing cast. You got to get some named people to get eyes on projects, as we know, to build ourselves out. Tell me a little bit about that, getting the crew and building up this cast.
Sure. So, the first time Brian and I had an official meeting, it was basically to figure out that he would be sort of the cast guy the actor director, and I would be the the crew, the visuals, the technical, like all of that. So with that said, the cast, it was pretty awesome. He came up sort of through the acting world. He had a really good acting coach that had a lot of ties with management and agents and things like that. So he would come to me sometimes with options. What do you think of this person or that person? And which was put me in a nice position. Like for instance, what do you think of Diane Franklin? Oh, I love Diane. Like she's such an 80s gem. Like I would love to work with Diane Franklin. And meeting with her and putting the Shelley was someone we worked with a couple of times. So we thought it was, as far as that was concerned, it was like, is she, she's kind of, I think a little against type for being like a leading lady. Like, is this someone who should be more frail or, someone, more like a damsel? And Shelley has such a presence, but I think that brought a nuance to it, and we decided to go with it for that. So yeah, he did a lot of piecing that together. And then on my end, it was like, who's going to shoot this? I must have I think I watched somewhere around 250 like DP reels, something like that. I was really trying to find someone because I knew we weren't going to have a lot of resources for sets or for lighting and things like that. So what I was looking for was someone that I thought had just like a good grasp of shot composition that can work with very little and make the shot, make the scene pop. So our crew, as you can imagine, was pretty small. Seth was our DP. I thought he did a really good job, and everyone on board. We knew that everyone on board had to be willing to sort of put up with a lot. As you know, it's a grind, and when you're working with low budget, sometimes it's like 15 pages in one day that you got to get through or something, and there's no room to really try different things out. We got to like get what we get and move on to the next thing. And you imagine watching it, what Shelley went through as the lead actress. How many times she's like on the floor having to deal with shit. So I just think we were really fortunate to have a cast and a crew that was very much on board, that stuck with it through the hardships and mostly kept a pretty positive demeanor.
Love that. Definitely, when they say MVPs, it's really everybody on a set, man, that just has the same love and appreciation and the heart for what we do. I love that. Completely agree. So what would you say? I would also ask is what I like to hear, like the biggest lessons you learned while making a project. What do you think was this as your first feature? What did the number one thing you probably learned off the bat after this experience?
Well, I think the thing that comes to mind is going back to your question about pre-production. I think that that's something that going into it in my first feature, we were very ambitious, and Brian too. I think we were very eager and ambitious to get into production. I would consider this an experimental horror film, especially most of the experimenting went down in post-production. Sitting with the pieces that we had and figuring out the best way to piece it together and find that sort of voice for the film. But going back, I think we could have saved a lot of time and stress and energy if we planned very more meticulously each detail. It is what it is. For this film, I think it's an experimental film. We let certain pieces fall where it may, and work with it the best that we could. And I think it's a pretty interesting outcome that I hope people enjoy. But yeah, that would be the biggest thing is really combing through the screenplay, really planning out, workshopping it, reading it with having table reads, if you can even test shoot certain locations, test shoot with certain actors, plan everything out and really get those details right before you go in, and that could save a lot of hardships.
Definitely agree. I just that's so perfect. I just interviewed Tom DiNucci, who has a project called The Collective coming out in the next week or so, and his whole thing was you don't want to think on set. You just want to have your plan done from all of that pre-pro, so that way you're just shooting and you're concentrating on the shots as it comes. So love that. So let's get into production, actual production. Cool. Shot in 2016. What was you thankfully enough prior to this pandemic, which halted a lot of folks, and that was a whole interesting period now, right? Tell me about the actual production, working on set with some of these great, stars that are known, and this crew that you assembled, and the camaraderie and the love that came together. Any memories from set on The Waking Nightmare?
Yeah, the cast was everyone worked so well together, and Diane comes to mind as just such a joy to work with, in that she really had that. She's still, she's been in the game so long and sort of came out of retirement to do this movie. And then after she shot this, she started acting again. So, it was cool to see her come back, but not just that she had this sort of spirit still that you have all the way, remembering back to film school of just like, do what we got to do to get this done. That like spirit and ambition that she had. She would, she did what she had to do. Like Shelley, as I said before, dealt with a lot. I feel like dealt with a lot. I feel like we really put her through the ringer, with physically demanding scenes and emotionally demanding scenes, and having to, turn her emotions on and off. And, off camera, in between takes, she was nothing but pleasant. And then her and Brian Cohen, who since became this big time political commentator. I don't know if you've ever seen his videos. I see him all the time. But the two of them are good friends, so that brought a lot of Shelley and Brian Cohen are good friends. Jameson, everyone was just so friendly and easy to work with. That became something that was extremely important and valuable to production because of how hard we had to work. We had days with company moves and long lines, long bits of dialogue and walk and talks and things with special effects that had to go right, in the first take, or things like that. So crew. I think Seth. I worked with Seth the most. That we had a lot of great. Oh, I would also shout out to Analia, who was our AD. It was her first feature that she assistant directed. I think that's true. And now she's been producing and assistant directing for all kinds of projects. And I'm going to see one of the films she did tonight, actually. But she worked so tirelessly, like even on days that we weren't filming, to help prepare things. To if there was any blanks, she would she'd fill up any empty spots and things that we need. And Seth, being the DP, there was a day that he I don't know, he had like a stomach bug or something. And like, he was like, this guy looked like he was in pain. I don't know if I could have handled it. Like, this guy was keeling over, and he was just like, we just got to get this. Like, we got to get this day. And he did the whole 12-hour day, just looking green. And, it's just not to paint him in a gross, but I don't know if he wants everyone knowing about that, but I just think it was incredibly admirable. Because, he was working hard for like low pay at the time, and just doing whatever it took to get it. And it was tough. It was tough for some, at some points we dealt with a lot of hurdles and challenges, but I think everyone involved really jumped those hurdles, did what they had to do as a unit to get this thing done. And then, before we knew it, it was over. And there was a number of attempts to do either some reshoots or film extra things. And that was part of what, added to like the time. It would always end up falling through. There'd be schedule conflicts or something. And then COVID happened, and it was kind of like, okay, what we have is what we have. Let's make this movie.
Yeah. Oh man, no, I feel that, man. As as a fellow creative, this is why, we're fighting right now. We're recording this during the SAG after strike, y'all. Support our creatives. We're fighting for a reason, in order to give you entertainment, to get your mind off of the rest of the world right now. So anyway, I don't want to go into too much of that, but that's amazing. We become a family. It's our set family, right? And everybody's hard work and dedication is just means so much. You become closer than your real family in some ways, right? During production, what was one of the key things for you, after working with Brian and getting this amazing team together and this cast, was really like, I have to get this part right? Was there any scene or anything, without spoiling, we don't want to spoil for the people, but like when they finally check it out on August 18th, they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Was there anything that like really meant a lot to you, or you really wanted to have right that you can recall? I know it's been a while. It's 2016.
No, yeah, it's a good question. A lot of it came in, a lot of it came in post-production when it was, trying to find the right rhythm of the movie. I think it's sort of a nuanced slasher in some ways, thriller in some ways, brutal horror film, wanting to give people a little bit of everything, but keeping it sort of it has a sort of a cryptic side too. So I think the big thing that I was trying to get right was the pacing of the overall film. There were certain scenes that were reworked in different ways in post-production, that were split up in different ways in post-production. So it was the pacing and the sort of story beats that I was trying to just fine tune just right and get right, and then like sort of the overall feeling of it. I want it to be a sort of wild ride for people that are into cult films, that are into something new. That's how I came up loving trauma movies, or like independent. I interned with Trauma for a little bit when I was in film school, and those guys were a huge inspiration to me. And the more avant-garde and the foreign films and things that play with your expectations and give you sort of just an interesting thing. And then when you go back, if anyone's willing to go back and watch it again, I think it's a movie that you can actually understand more, pick up more from. The more that you watch it, the more you kind of understand, or pick up little things from, and little tiny callbacks and things that I snuck in there. So and this is just from my experience with the film personally. I think getting the edit right was the big challenge for me.
Definitely. I actually I love some of the name Trauma. I came from that kind of same school and or appreciation of those type of works, being not too far from Jersey and having some friends that have done quite a bit of work with Trauma. I was wondering if we probably like maybe ran into some of the same circles. I love it. Wow. So that question, and as you stated, most films, if you didn't do I'm not going to say that, but most films come together in post, as we know, to get all of this jumbled mess that we shot in different ways all together. Let's talk a little bit about post and lead into, we showed the trailer, but in your own words, what Waking Nightmare is, to tell the people about that, and what you hope it brings to the people, or the story of Waking Nightmare for the people.
Mm-hmm. So starting with post-production, that is really where it came together. It was almost like having like materials like spread out that you're going to make into a quilt or something, like having like these different materials. And especially because in production, going back to production, I think that we sort of treated each scene like its own individual entity. So like when we were filming something that is comedic, we just thought, okay, these and instead of having a stylistic sort of through line while we were filming, we treated each scene like its own sort of moment. So now which I think is an experiment upon itself. So now we're sitting there with these scenes, and it was kind of like, okay, finding that unique voice. And there was a number of different techniques I used, and one of them was collaborating with other visual artists like Matt Goldberg, who did that zany intro and a lot of the animation throughout, that sort of helped start to form this idea of like, well, what her nightmares look like, and what that mental confusion is, or what that experience of the mental confusion for Jordan is, and how do we sort of experience that visually. And then of course working on the music. I mean, there was a lot of just like long experimental sessions of finding textural noise and sounds and things like that, with analog instruments, with percussion instruments, and with synth instruments and voices. And there was a lot of space to just sort of like experiment with like what this movie sounds like and all of that. So it was a fun, it was that was in a lot of ways the fun part, although a lot of it was like, okay, how's this going to turn out? And slowly and surely we start to find little bits and pieces about like, oh, this really works well, that really works well, until it was the movie, until it was like, okay, this is it, it's ready to go. And I just hope, in terms of what Waking Nightmare is and how people perceive it, I hope that it's an enjoyable ride for people that are into sort of unexpected, different kinds of movies that are looking for something different. I think it's not, I know it's not, maybe not for everybody, but there's a little something for everybody too. It's a story about trauma. It's a story about, it's a mother and daughter relationship, sort of toxicity, feeling, trying to find some stability and normalcy in just an insane, mad world. And everything from psychological horror to, almost buddy comedy to just brutal, vicious, visceral sort of horror. And so it's not that long of a movie, clocking in at, I don't know, what was it, like an hour 18 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So but I think so I think I hope that for the most part people watch it and just kind of enjoy it for the visual journey that it is. And for the performances, especially like Diane has some of the most like unhinged performances in it. And also some of the special effects for people that are looking for like practical effects that appreciate decent practical effects. I think we have some really good moments in there that'll make you cringe or, jump back a little bit. We also had Cleve Hall, rest in peace. He's a special effects legend. He did he was from the show Monster Men from the Sci-Fi Channel. I think we were one of possibly the last movie that he did before he passed. So it was really cool working with, getting a chance to work with him. And so that's it. I hope there's a little bit of something that you can enjoy from it. I think it's a cool movie. And like I said, I know the teenage me that was always going to horror movie conventions in Jersey and looking for the craziest, different kind of against the grain, against Hollywood kind of movie I could find. I think that those people will really find something cool in Waking Nightmare.
Love it. Love it. Everybody, you can check out Waking Nightmare when it arrives on video on demand on August 18th. I'm excited to check this out, Steve. This sounds amazeballs. And I'm sure, was it like Monster Mania up there in New Jersey that you would go out to?
I mean, it's been a while since I did, but I used to go to, it was called Chiller Theater. It was,
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Cherry, or no. Yeah. In the like across from the Meadowlands. I don't think I got the town name right, but
okay.
Yeah, like right outside New York City. And things, I don't know how it is now, but it used to get crazy, man. I used to be like, I used to get crazy over there. So yeah, I used to buy like stacks of DVDs, like Cannibal Holocaust and crazy. Like the stuff I couldn't find in normal stores. I'd be like looking for like what are the hidden gems, like the taboo films that are only at the, that's what I was interested in. And then you get, an autograph from Gary Coleman or some, dude,
I love it. I'm the same kind of cat, man. I love that. That's awesome. You bringing up trauma, and then you bring, of course you did. That's what we, man, I love it. This was a pleasure, Steve, man. So everybody, again, Waking Nightmare, video on demand, August 18th. Are there any other nuggets we can throw some love on? Any projects? I know, this one, is finally hitting the stores on August 18th and video on demand. Are there any other projects we can show love and light, or in the least, give some handles that people can follow you online so they can support you as you continue to do work in this business and bring us some stuff to get our minds off everything.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm working on a short film called Milton, the Strangest Man Alive, that has an animatronic main character. I'm not sure when that's coming out, but it's something I'm working on. I got a script I'd really like to do that I consider it's like Saw meets Dogtooth. If you've ever seen Dogtooth, it's kind of, so I have this. That's the best way I could describe it is Saw meets Dogtooth, and that's something I'd like to do. But, as reality would dictate, Brian and I are both, working on our careers as commercial producers. Brian has a pilot that he shot with Nick, I can't believe I can't remember the guy's name. Who's the singer that just died? Aaron Carter. So he just filmed something with Aaron Carter right before Aaron Carter passed. And that, so yeah, he's still, I think they're still looking for an outlet for that show. Yeah, I know that, I think they're in the talks with Hulu, but he was in a documentary about it with, you know, on Hulu as well, if you want to see him in that. And then, but yeah, I guess as what I was saying is, as reality would dictate, we're both kind of working on, you know, commercially viable projects. So I've been, you know, keeping busy producing commercials and web content and stuff for clients. I'd like to get back into the creative stuff as soon as possible, though.
I'm with you, brother. That's why I'm doing this, to keep busy and get inspired by talking to my fellow filmmakers, man. I do a lot of security industrials here in the DC area. So yeah.
How is the scene in DC? Like, how is the horror scene and all
more
that?
so security industrials?
Okay.
So it's good to be an actor, filmmaker with a security clearance, doing stuff for, you know, FBI, you know, just some of your various, you know, 3-letter agencies here locally. But it's good. And I'm also on WTOP-FM Radio. Shout out to my listeners on 103.5 on the morning, giving my entertainment picks every week as well. So man, this is a pleasure to talk to you, dude. Yeah, and please keep in touch. Hopefully some of these other projects, you can dip your hand back into some creative stuff. I'd love to have you back and talk about them. But again, I'm gonna tell everybody, August 18th, video on demand, Waking Nightmare, check it out. My last question that I always leave people off with, my outlet is called Nerds Rule the World, the NRW. So what we like to ask our guests is, if you were to give a TED Talk, we already know you're a filmmaker. You know, we already know, you know, you can't give trauma type stuff, or like really cool indie horror stuff. But what does Steve Craig get nerdy about? What could you give a TED style talk on something you're really nerdy about that not too many people know about?
Oh man, yeah, it's, you know, I just really nerd out on underground film and music, and the ability, just the freedom to be a little dangerous and transgressive with underground, you know, and but at the same time be open-minded to different, because I feel that, you know, I feel like the more transgressive stuff sometimes is what can kind of open our mind to other, to break us out of our comfort zone. You know, when I was young, a movie called American History X was one of the first films where I thought, wow, you can do something really powerful with film, and they do it like, you know, there's a style to it, and you know, and it has like this just serious ugliness that goes there, and it broke me out of my sheltered sort of upbringing. And I feel that same way about watching like John Waters films, or listening to death metal sometimes, where it like breaks us out of our comfort zone and lets us explore sort of like the ugliness of humanity in sort of a safe and sometimes fun way. So I think like shock value and stuff gets a bad rap. But I think it's a powerful tool sometimes, and so I'd probably nerd out about something like that.
I love that, dude. Man, you just made me think about American History X. That hasn't been brought up in some time. I now feel like I want to go watch that, and completely agree. You know, it's funny. The other day I was just talking about shock jocks back in the day. I used to be a big Howard Stern fan. Now, you know, it's kind of changed. A lot of like that radio is not, you know, it's not how it should be now in different ways, but at the same time, we need to be expressive in a lot of ways, and just to give the content and for people to create their own minds and decisions and all of that, and just to really kind of get out of our boxes that we get into as we grow in society. I love that. Steve Craig, y'all. Waking Nightmare arrives on video on demand on August 18th. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I'm gonna have all the links to Steve in the description below, and Waking Nightmare, check it out. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. Another interview for you all on NRW.
Thank you so much, man. Great chatting with you.
Definitely. And there's a cut, brother.